Hi there. Let's talk for a couple of minutes about how we design an outcomes-based framework through collaborating with people in an organization, not designing these outcomes-based frameworks in a dark hole somewhere and coming up with a solution. It's collaborating with people and using a process and a technique and a method that allows us to design an outcomes-based framework for measurement and that we can then use for improvement and for planning that involves people in our organization. And this method, if you haven't heard of it before, which you may have if you're watching this video, is the PuMP-based approach. So it's a performance measurement process, PuMP. And PuMP is a methodology for measuring organizational performance, right? Think of PuMP as I do with other methodologies that we might use for projects or for change management or whatever. It's based on research. It's based on what actually happens in the real world, and then we design a process around how we can engage with that and have a disciplined approach towards developing this outcomes-based framework for performance measurement. So those measures and those methods, I should say, that give us this internal capability. When we think about the methods that we use those methods because they give us more predictable results. We create a common language in our organization and a common set of tools that allow us to get there. And PuMP is that method for performance measurement. It was developed by Stacey Barr, who is a statistician, done a master's in research statistics, and has published 2 books, Practical Performance Measurement, and then following that, How to Create High Performance Cultures, right? Prove It, which is all about evidence-based leadership. I encourage you to go and have a look at Stacey's blog here. There are 1,000 articles in there, and you can search by topics. PuMP is a methodology that's been developed over the last 20 years, and it's been used and is used by people around the world today. So that's just a quick background on PuMP. It wasn't just invented by me. I've been used by myself for the last 15 years, and I am one of these PuMP partners that use PuMP for myself in Australasia. But PuMP is a methodology that's been around for about 20 years. So here's a quick overview of this process. And this is a blueprint process, and I'll just move that over there. First step in PuMP, there's 8 steps we'll quickly talk through. The first one is that we have to understand measurement's purpose. We have to establish the why we're doing something. In many organizations, the why we measure something is to be able to measure or manage or judge people. As soon as we do that, we disengage one of the key stakeholder groups, which is the people in the organization who will be using the measurement framework and the measures to learn about what's happening, what the impact is of their activity on the outcomes that we're trying to seek. So we want to set up purpose about why for measurement, and that's about continuous improvement. That's what we're focused on. The second step in PuMP then is we start to look at how we map out in a cause and effect way these results or outcomes. And that's really about trying to figure out what it is we're trying to measure first. Let's figure out what to measure before we start jumping into all the measures. What we do is we create an outcomes-based framework, cause and effect that flow through these layers of a map. On this map, as a results map, is all outcomes or results. The measures can get added to this framework later on. But in step 2, we build a framework of outcomes, cause and effect. Teams on this outer level, what outcomes the teams achieve, through to organizational level outcomes in the center. Then when we've got that, we can start to look at how we then design and select performance measures that give us feedback on the results and the outcomes that we seek. So figure out what to measure first, the outcome, and then use a deliberate process to design and select those performance measures. And in PuMP, we use a measure design technique specific to design and select the most meaningful measures for each one of those outcomes. Then when we've done that, we can add the measure names once we've designed and selected those measures for each one of these outcomes. When we've got that, we end up with a measurement framework. And a measurement framework that's based on cause and effect that flows from the outer edge of the map through to the greater organizational level results in the center. And that map is developed because we're talking about stakeholders here. In the center of the map, it's working with the stakeholders of the leadership of the organization. And then as we move to the outer layers of the map, it's working with the teams to develop their results and their performance measures. And then we get into step 4 of PuMP. It's really about checking in with people in our organization, a broader group of stakeholders that can provide some feedback on the results and the performance measures we've developed so that we can have confidence then taking that set of performance measures and bringing that measurement framework to life. And that's done with these second 4 steps of PuMP, which is about how we define the measure. So documenting the measure itself so that when we come to use that measure, it's consistently reported each time and it's consistently understood by everyone that's using that performance measure. When it comes to then interpreting signals, we use these XMR charts. And again, I'll move that just out of the way for a second. We've got these XMR charts. This is the main chart we're looking at, which is the performance measure itself. And it's only after we've established a baseline of performance that then we can set targets on the measure to start to say, which direction do we want this measure to go in? And then there's a whole other discussion about prioritization of performance targets. But in here, these charts have been used by performance improvement practitioners for about 80 years. It's not something we just dreamt up last week. 80 years they've been used, and the statisticians that write about XMR charts, Donald Wheeler is one of them, they talk about the beauty of the XMR chart is it allows us to see the signals and patterns in these measures so that we don't react to natural variation. And we can see the patterns and then see the changes that are occurring rather than reacting to this natural variation. But that's probably another subject, another topic for another conversation. Step 7, this is how we start to use dashboards that are useful. They're designed for the users so that for the user, the performance, rather than looking at something like this, we can look at a report that's based on using these mini XMR charts here to tell us what performance is doing. And that's all structured around outcomes. Why performance is doing that? It doesn't have to be a few pages of narrative. It's normally a sentence or two. And now what do we do? And that's what we're looking for when we're looking for our reports. And then in step 8 of PuMP, it's about then how we use these performance measurement processes and techniques and focusing on our outcomes, which enables us to get continuous improvement. Some people think continuous improvement is just something that happens across time, that we just get better as we go. It's not actually the case. Continuous improvement is based on the plan, do, check, and act cycle about how us humans and then how groups of stakeholders and teams learn how to achieve continuous improvement. We plan to do something, we do something, we measure it, we understand the impact of that doing, and based on that new knowledge, we take another step. Continuous improvement is step change across time. This model here is often referred to as the Deming cycle. And that's what we're using the performance measurement process for. And that's how we create an outcomes-based framework using the PuMP method. Quick overview, hopefully. Anyway, I hope this has been of value, and thanks for watching.